The dad, John Kelley. Good morning, John.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thanks for taking a few minutes and tell us about this kind of wacky story, that crazy story. Thankfully, it worked out all right for your family in the long run, but your son Connor was on the crew team, obviously, at Mainland High School, and was it the Mother's Day event where he had a stroke right in the middle of the event, and you had to rush him to the hospital, and all kind of scary stuff going on after that, huh?
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy day. We started off. I have two boys that row for the Mainland crew. My older son John, and then my younger son Connor, and I have a third son Matt. He's still in middle school. But we were at the Mother's Day Regatta, and Connor was rowing in the JV8, which had a great season, and he was rowing the 6th seat, which is one of the power seats, and they were racing St. Augustine and a few of the other Atlantic County crews and Ocean City as well, and they won their race. And about 2 hours after the race, they were coming over to collect their medals, and Connor went down. He became very disoriented. Didn't really know what was going on, and Tom Scher, one of the assistant coaches, who's an EMT, came over and was administering to him. Didn't think he was dehydrated. Didn't really know what was going on, and if you know much about rowing, you know these kids are all in incredible shape. I mean, they work out like maniacs, 6 months out of the year, and we didn't really think anything serious was wrong at the time. It took a little bit to understand, because Connor was still conscious. He just was down on the ground and saying, I can't, and the ambulance came very quickly, rushed him to the emergency room at Atlantic City Medical Center, the city division. And in there, his symptoms came out where he couldn't speak at all, and he couldn't move his right arm. And we really, didn't know what was going on. Connor had a history of migraine headaches, but that was about it. Other than that, he's pretty healthy. So the ER doctor, Dr. Ross Feld, was pretty confident that Connor was having a stroke, which you can imagine a 16-year-old who's the picture of health, hearing that was a shock, and he recommended a typical treatment for stroke victims, something called a TPA. The TPA needs to be administered within 4 hours of the symptoms for it to be, its maximum effectiveness, and we got it in there within plenty of time. And it was a miracle. Shortly after getting the drug, Connor's symptoms started disappearing. I'd say within 2 minutes, he was reaching for a glass of water with his right hand and speaking normally, and we were very grateful, and then the helicopter came and took him and his mom, Denise, up to CHOP, and he spent the next 5 days being evaluated. And turned out he did have a stroke, and recovered quickly, fortunately, and thank God, his symptoms disappeared, and he's scheduled to make 100% recovery and get back to doing his thing. And, that's really only half the story, because the other half is about the rowing team and the amazing support of the Mainland families that whose children row for the team, and all of the kids, and really the rowing community, because a lot of the other schools, the local schools, reached out to Connor and wished him well. And I mentioned my other son John rows, and John was the first alternate for the JV8. He had just started rowing this year. He'd been in the varsity, he'd been in the JV, he'd sort of been all over the place, and when Connor went down, John stepped in, and they didn't miss a beat. They kept going. They had won the Philadelphia City Championships prior to Connor getting sick. They won the county championships the day that Connor fell ill. And then what remained were the two biggest races of the year, the Stotesbury Regatta and the National Schoolboy Championships. And when John stepped in for the Stotesburys, they were one of 54 entries, and crews from all over the country came out to row, including Canada, and they finished fourth in that race out of 54 entries, which is very impressive. And then in the nationals, there was similar talent there, schools from Illinois, Florida, all over, and they made it to the semifinals in that race. So they really ended up, rallying around one another and really being a shining example of what teamwork can do.
Talk with John Kelley, whose son Connor actually had a stroke during a high school crew meet a couple of weeks ago. John, what was going through the mind of yourself and your wife Denise there? That must have been just a harrowing event there for at least a couple hours.
Well, it's one of those things where it's so surreal. You sort of know what's going on, but it's not quite registering, I guess. And it took some time for it to sink in, to be honest with you. Initially, he got well pretty fast, and that certainly put a lot of concern to rest. But as the days went by, and as he got out of the hospital, you realized your son was very ill, and it's the kind of situation where to come back as quickly as he has, he's incredibly fortunate. And a lot of people, children included, when they have a stroke, it takes a long time, a lot of therapy, and a lot of time to heal up and get back to where you used to be, if you can at all. And thank God Connor is 100%.
Now, John, how much leverage does your son John have now? I mean, he can come to you guys, hey, look, I stepped in when the team needed me. I got it done. So maybe a little better birthday present this year.
There you go. Yeah, well, he's hunting for a car. But John Kelley's the man as far as I'm concerned. He really, stepped up. He did his brother proud. And, you see how brothers get along. They can fight like dogs. But when you see them having one another's back, it's great.
Yeah, that must have been a proud moment for yourself and your wife to see John really, take a mature role in that team and fill in for his brother. That's what you hope for your sons to act towards each other, right?
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, it's nice to see them growing up. They're turning into really good people, and they're with good people. That's what matters. The crew team gives them a lot of support. The coaches. Everyone from Eric Summershoe, the head coach, to I mentioned Tom Scher and Chris Dennis and Coach Liam Edwards. They really bring out the best in these guys, and they're teaching valuable lessons. I've rowed my whole life, and rowing does something for you that few other sports can. It's a very much a team thing, and and you can see it. When you see it happening in kids, it's pretty awesome.
Great stuff, John. We appreciate the time. We're up against the break here. Got to let you go, but we're thankful that Connor's okay and everything turned out well. And it's going to be a neat story to tell 15, 20 years down the road.
Yes, as time goes by, it'll be a lot easier to tell. You got that right. Yes. One thing, with the Viking Rowing Club, we have a big agenda. We're over in Ventnor Heights, and we're looking for people to come out. We have a race July 29th, the Ventnor City Sprints and Coastal Regatta. We'd love ESPN to be a part of it, and if anyone wants to come out, we'd be glad to see them.
Awesome. I'll get in touch with you. We'll get some information going on the Glory Days Facebook page and all that stuff. So we'll get some information out there for the fans, for anybody who's interested.
I appreciate it, Dan. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bud. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
That was John Kelley, father of Connor Kelley from the Mainland Crew Team.